as Britain and America announced a new trade agreement. Both leaders hailed a deal that removes recently hiked US tariffs on British steel and aluminium altogether and cuts tariffs on British cars. But is it a win for the UK? Or have we been shafted, as Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch rather bluntly put it? To answer that, I brought together Liam Byrne, Labour chair of the Business and Trade Select Committee, and Sir Connor Burns, a former Conservative trade minister who's currently in the United States. Liam Byrne first.
I think it's the first step towards a bigger agreement. I mean, ultimately, we don't really want to be in this position. Nobody really wanted tariffs, but that is a decision of the American people. But what we have definitely secured with a common sense retreat on agriculture and some minor duties, we've secured a huge reprieve for the British car industry. This potentially has helped safeguard about 50 to 60,000 jobs. So it's an important first step, but it's not the final step.
And Connor, just to sort of ask you about the politics of all this, Keir Starmer can claim quite justifiably, can't he, that he's achieved something that eluded successive Conservative prime ministers?
I think Liam is right. Look, this is a positive move in a suboptimal position on the board. Nobody wanted the position we're in with the US tariffs. It's a bit like somebody described it in the Telegraph a couple of weeks ago. It's like that moment in The Godfather when the guy wakes up and finds the horse's head next to him in the bed. You know, these tariffs have upended the rules of international trade with our largest trading partner. And I think this is a launch pad for something much bigger and bolder in due course. But it's clearly a win. Mm-hmm. It's a win for all the officials who've been working on it, and it's unquestionably a win for the Prime Minister and the new ambassador to the US.
Liam, if we look at the detail of the deal, would a fair summary be that it's great news for car workers in your neck of the woods, good news for steel workers in Scunthorpe, but more mixed news for beef farmers? Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I think we can't lose sight of the fact that the biggest losers here are the American people. I mean, ultimately, the prices of the goods that they buy from the UK now are going to be more expensive. Actually, the concessions that have been made by beef are probably good for UK consumers, but they're quite limited. So I think the best interpretation could actually be it's a bit of a win for UK workers, for sure. It's a bit of a win for UK consumers. And crucially, we don't compromise the possibility of doing quite an ambitious agriculture deal with the European Union as part of the reset. And that is really important for UK exporters.
Connor, Kemi Badenoch said that Britain had been shafted by this deal. Has she got a point, do you think?
I think she has a point in the sense that no one wanted to start from where we are. Look, you know, the graph that the Americans put out yesterday showed the fact that the UK tariff for the Americans is falling from 5.1 to 1.8, but the tariff overall for British stuff into the American market is going from 3.4 to 10%. That is not a win, but that is the reality of the position that President Trump has adopted with his tariff policy. Look, I think Kemi, I worked for Kemi when I was the trade envoy to the US before we left government. And Kemi, for example, on the Indian one, was all over the detail of this. So she will obviously have knowledge of things that she wanted to do and red lines that she had that may or may not have transitioned into the new administration, and it's appropriate for her to take the view that she thinks is right. But Kemi's got to make those judgments. I think as someone who's now trying to look at this from a more perhaps impartial view, I think it is a win. I think it is... The fact that we have done it is almost more important than the exact detail of it.
Liam, on that India trade deal, there's been a bit of a political row over the national insurance exemptions. You know, Farage claiming that the deal would undercut British workers, the government saying that that's absolutely not true. But ministers have refused so far to publish their assessment of the costs or the impact that that national insurance concession could have on the number of Indians coming to the UK to work temporarily on company transfers. Do you think the government needs to do that?
Well, the government needs to publish the treaty first, right? So, I mean, at the moment, the political bargain has been struck, but the treaty has still got to be, as they say, scrubbed, and then it's got to be laid in Parliament. I mean, I think quite a lot of this argument is confected, if I'm honest. These are the kinds of agreements that we have with about 40 or 50 countries as part of our trade deals around the world. You know, ultimately, this is a big £5 billion boost for UK GDP. And I think the key thing, I mean, it goes back to something Connor said, the UK is now emerging as a hub of free trade. I mean, back in 1945, Winston Churchill talked about Britain standing at the point of junction between three majestic circles, the US, Europe, and the Commonwealth. Well, now we've got about 5 majestic circles, which we're now the junction: the US, the EU, CPTPP, that great trade alliance across Asia Pacific, India, and soon, I hope, the Gulf Cooperation Council too. So, by the end of this year, actually, Britain could be one of the world's great leaders of free trade. That is a Brexit benefit, and it could actually do us extremely well in the years to come.
This is a massive deal, right? India is the emergent, dominant economic force in that region and, in fact, in the world. Liam is right. We've done this with other countries before. This is not an unusual position. I think there's actually an opportunity for the Conservative Party to say, look, we played a role in starting a lot of this. As Liam said, I nearly fell off my chair. This is a Brexit benefit. This is what we meant when we talked about global Britain. A lot of people thought that was very trite. It wasn't about an inward-looking UK that some of us had the vision of. It was an outward-looking UK forging trade agreements with the growing parts of the world that will be the engines of economic growth in the decades ahead. Clearly, we need to keep an eye on it if it becomes a problem, but that will be baked in. We've done this with other countries. It's been successful. We have double taxation treaties with many, many countries around the world. I'm relatively relaxed on this.
Connor Burns and Liam Byrne.